We had a good, successful cemetery tour on Saturday. We had 75 participants, and Historical Society brought in $1,015, which is good. And then we have our January program. She's standing back there in the doorway. Marie Reynolds is going to take us on another Treasures of Redlands, Hidden Treasures of Redlands, Brookside Avenue, and probably up to Terracina, correct? And then save the date, December 8th, we have our Christmas party. It'll be at the Cutler Building on the corner of Cajon and Olive Avenue. So the old YWCA building. And let's see, dues are due in January. The renewal letters will come out in the newsletter in January. But if you pay earlier, then I don't have to stick in that envelope, and it takes me extra time to put on extra Scotch tape so the envelope doesn't fall out. So I would appreciate that. It's $30 still, but I'm sure our treasurer will have her way and we will raise it to $35 because, as you know, postage has gone up, and slowly but surely our newsletter expenses for printing have gone up. So I can't blame it all on the treasurer. And we didn't get to have any walking tours for 15, 16 months because the pandemic. So, and they've been always a good fundraiser for us that we didn't get to have this past year. And then we're also thinking about, well, actually we're going to publish a 50th anniversary book that's going to include most of all of what we printed in the newsletter over the last 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Okay, well, he would know, he's the editor. So anyway, about 10 years back, previous newsletters, we'll put them all in order. So you'll have a history, early history of Redlands going back all the way to 1869. That's pretty good, because all the other histories of Redlands always start in 1881 with Judson Brown finally arriving. So it's nice to be the president, because all I have to do is start the program, then introduce Ron Running, who's the vice president, who is in charge of programming. And then if anything messes up, it's his fault, because, you know, I'm the prez.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see so many gathered here. This is going to be a hybrid Zoom meeting. We're broadcasting on the internet for those that didn't want to brave the storm of the century, was it supposed to be? But our speaker tonight is Nathan Gonzalez. Nathan is our city archivist. As such, he's on the Historic and Scenic Preservation Commission. He's been president of Rotary. He is a advocate of railroads and mid-century modern architecture and all things historic. And a few months ago, he showed me these wonderful pictures of downtown Redlands in the 30s that none of us have seen. And so you're in for a treat. Anybody here that lived in Redlands in the 1930s? Okay, good. So you can't. Okay, awesome. So we'll see if you can remember any of these pictures. So Nathan.
Thank you very much, Ron. I've also been past president of this organization. So, all right, I'm going to see if I can magically make this work, because it was easy during the pandemic because I only had to worry about one platform, but now we've got everyone all over the world, I guess, plus all of you in here, and we'll see if my technical skills are up to it. So I hope so. So theoretically, does it look like I'm sharing my screen on that computer? Yes. Okay, excellent, cool. Well, thank you all for coming out on this very wet evening. It was great. I was a little afraid everyone would choose to stay home, so I'm glad you're here. So thank you for that. I also, before we get started, I want to recognize, because Kathy Behrens told me that the woman who is responsible for all of these photos even being here is in the audience tonight. So Marla, please, thank you. It's exclusively because of you that this program is here and that we have this fantastic documentation. So what I'm going to do tonight is take you through this whole project, not in like the crazy minutia detail, because that I've put people to sleep before and I'm still reeling from that. But I am going to try to find some moments to go between the photos and then some historic imagery. So hopefully I'll be able to transition between those two things in addition to everything else. All right, so hold on. If there's at any point, please feel free. You can always interrupt me. If there's something that I don't say clearly enough, or you need to better understand, I haven't explained a particular location, just let me know. About 22 years ago, I was giving a presentation at Plymouth Village, and I thought I'd done, a pretty great show, if I do say so myself. And afterwards, there was, there's always people who want to come up and talk. And so here I'm thinking, I'm going to get all these great compliments because I did such an awesome program. And this nice gentleman came up to me and he said, "Have you ever considered speech lessons?" So there was that. Okay. So this is 1915 Redlands, excuse me, back when, the Auto Club is actually the one who put in stop signs and made maps and things like that. And the reason, I forgot to bring my little laser pointer. Oh, well. Maybe if I have to, I'll run up there. Or do you have one, Tom?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so this is before the freeway, obviously. This is before Highway 99. And you can check out that there's really only a few different ways that you get into Redlands from outside of town. If you're coming from Riverside, you pretty much come down Barton Road to Brookside, and that's how you get downtown. If you're coming from San Bernardino or from Los Angeles or whatever, thank you, then you're coming down Colton Avenue up here. If you're coming down from Highland, you can come down Orange Street. And if you're coming from Yucaipa, San Gorgonio Pass, you're coming through Reservoir Canyon and then past the city reservoir. It's right there at Ford Park today, right? I was trying to come up with a street name, but that's better because you will know exactly where that is. And then into town down Reservoir Street, which was later renamed Roosevelt Road. And if you take a little close up, here you can really kind of get a sense. So this is Central Avenue, and it's very short, right? It just goes a few blocks to the west of today's Eureka Street. Here you can see Reservoir. And what's interesting to me about this photo or this map is that at this time, Reservoir went all the way to Citrus. Roosevelt Road went all the way to Citrus, and it basically cut the evolving and growing high school campus into two big pieces, right? So it was Reservoir until 1918 when Teddy Roosevelt died, and that's when it became Roosevelt Road. And then in 1921, because of the growth of the high school, there was concern about safety during school time. And so it went before the city council, and at that period is when Roosevelt, between Fern Avenue and Citrus, that little section of it right there was closed to traffic. Now, when they closed the street, so here's Roosevelt here, when this section of the street got closed, now remember, that's the main way here from Yucaipa, the San Gorgonio Pass in the desert. It meant that suddenly you could come down and you had to make a sharp left onto Fern Avenue and then either turn right on Beacon Street, which is this one here, or on Church Street and go down to Citrus and then across. And people felt that that was really, really unsafe. I'm not sure I would disagree with that. So what happened then is in the mid-1920s, the city took possession of this bit of Orange Grove as public right-of-way and created another one long block of Beacon Street. So that's why it came in and curved around and then went up again. So this is Beacon, or today's Redlands Boulevard, this section right here. And then this is all part of the high school campus now. And then Roosevelt, before it was all houses. So if you guys all played with Sanborn maps before, they're awesome. They're so cool. And most cities in the United States have maps like this that were created for fire insurance calculation purposes. But it's a great snapshot in time. And so I pulled up this particular map so that you can see that this is Orange Street, State Street, Central, Citrus is down here, of course. And we had this pesky thing called the Mill Creek Zanja that ran through the middle of downtown, right? Or actually we built around it pretty much. And after the flood in 1891, it was channelized into a storm drain through the downtown section, but it was largely open still into the 1920s. In some places it had been built over, but in other places it was still very open. And that was a little bit of a challenge as they were beginning to think about the highway coming through town. So as the planning for Highway 99 was underway, the state engineers and George Hinckley, the city engineer, figured out what the best route through town was. And basically, remember that Colton Avenue was one of the ways into town. Well, they're going to take, they're going to come in on Colton Avenue, and then they're going to build a new section of street from Colton all the way down to Central. And that's what this all is up here. And then, and I'll give you a closer view of that, right? So here's Tennessee Street. Colton Avenue is going to be up here, right, and goes across, and that's where it's going to then curve down. This is all new street that's going to get created there. And then, of course, it has to be wide because you're going to have a lot of traffic. So how do you do that when the streets are already there? You condemn a whole lot of stuff. And so all of these red, that is the amount of city blocks that were condemned and bulldozed for the creation of the road to make it wider. And then they figured out that they could just put in a little section here through those city blocks and connect Beacon Street, which was at that angle, and then continue on down to Roosevelt Road and past the reservoir and up to Eureka. All right, so keep that all in mind. You know what, maybe this is a good chance to see if I can make this work. So here, just for example, this is something you can access from home if you have a connection to the internet. This is all of the Sanborn maps that we have here in the library, we digitized, and then they got geo-referenced. I'm not smart enough to know how that works, but it happened and it's great. And you can actually access this through the city's website. They have a GIS hub page, and you can come up and look at all of these different years of maps. So I just was starting here with 1925, since that's kind of like the beginning of our story. You can see this is actually closed by this point, but what is really interesting is, let's see if I get to, there's the high school, of course. This is later than our story now, but there's that section of Beacon that they added. So you can see on the map like that. So, but let's go back to 1925. Okay. So what we're going to do today is start way over here. The west end of Central. This is basically where Central ended, Mill, Kendall, and then all our numbered streets that got sort of obliterated and re-engineered with the mall projects and things like that over time. So now, gotta get my mouse back over here. Oh, it's a miracle. Okay. So far, so good. So here we are. We're down at that far west end of town. As you can see, it's not built up at all. This is where we had a lot of oil works. There was, you might remember smudge oil tanks that were down there for a long time. There were still remnants from this period of time. But this was not the nice part of town at this point. Here, so this is the Southern Pacific Railroad tracks that are no longer extant. This is Central right here. Soon to be Redlands Boulevard, but this is Central. The main right of way of the Southern Pacific's over here on the right. And then it came and curved around, and there's the trestle. So you see the trestle there at the far end? Yeah. And then the Santa Fe tracks are further over yet.
And the dirt road in front is New York.
Not quite yet. New York's a little further down. That's further west. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. This is West Central, just this side of Mill. You can see more of the railroad tracks, this intersection. You see high quality paving on the road. But here's what gets really cool. So, you know, I said this is not the nicest part of town. That's not a value judgment. But when it's a part of town that because of that didn't get documented, you know, I can show you a million pictures of Olive Avenue, but I can't show you any other pictures of this part of town. And that's what's really, really amazing about these photographs, because these are the things that didn't didn't get documented like this, except because of projects like this. So this is 415 West Central. And according to our city directories for 1933, which was the year that was closest to when these photos were taken, it was the home of Manuel and Jesse Jacques, and he was a concrete worker. And if I can go back, I'll show you exactly where 415 is. Let's see. So if this is 415, can I make it bigger? Ooh, cool. So that's 415 right here. So that picture you just saw is this building here. Okay. 403, so this is right, this next door, basically. Guadalupe and Francis Ortiz. He was just listed in the directory as a laborer. .327 West Central, so it's the next block down. This list is listed as being vacant, at least at the time that the directory was created. Looks like someone was collecting, wheels and part of a car. Yep. Yep. Almost everything that you'll see in these photos is something that got demoed. 315 West Central, we actually get to see one of the residents, at least in part. And at least in the directory, it was listed as William and Leela Cruz, and he was listed as a laborer. Now, this one's great. It took me a minute to totally figure out, because they're, not all these photos are actually labeled. So it took a lot of sleuth work to try to figure out exactly where all these, because they weren't like in an order that said, look here. So it took a little bit of time. I love it. Rooms for men only, light housekeeping with gas. So that was kind of an interesting thing. So here we are. And guess how it's shown on the Sanborn? Tenements. And look, all of these buildings where I guess you could rent rooms, I assume by the week, maybe less, maybe less, I don't know. Yeah.
Is that the Central Avenue still that's like behind the high school?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it continues. But yeah, it all winds up. Yeah. Okay. I think this was really interesting too. We have 315A, 315, 315 and a half, 315 and a fifth, 315 and a third. I guess they ran out of whole numbers. I don't know. Okay. So the Baltimore. It's not listed in the directories, incidentally, as the Baltimore. 311, W.A. Strain in the directory. According to that, he also furnished rooms or rented furnished rooms for people. Here's where things get a little more interesting for me historically. This is 307 West Central, so it's the same block, but this is the home of the Kanatani family at this period of time. And George Kanatani just died 3 years ago. And his daughter Allison is still in town, and I meant to call her up to ask if she had an aunt, because that might be her standing on the porch. And unfortunately, there isn't a photo of it, but the house just to our right, that one there, is where the Wada family lived. And two of the Wada sons were in the 442nd, and one was in Korea, and he's still living, Bob Wada. So interesting that we have these now images from this neighborhood that is pretty ethnically diverse. We have people who are probably from Mexican descent, we have Japanese, there are people from other parts of the country all living in this neighborhood. 301, this is on the corner, West Central, Joseph and Anita Rodriguez. He is also listed as a laborer. So this is very, very much, if you haven't figured out, a working class neighborhood. Let's look at the map. So it's 301, it's right here, second, and right there.
Second is the one that goes through where the mall is, right? It doesn't cross.
Second, at this point, is Eureka Street actually today. So, yeah, so Eureka Street comes up, it crosses Redlands Boulevard, and then it curves around to First Street. So it's all Eureka now, but it was first and then second. So that's actually where it comes up.
North of the freeway.
Those, all of this is south of today's freeway. Yeah, yeah, so the freeway is, yes. So here, I'll zoom out so you can get a sense. So here's State Street, Redlands Boulevard, Central Avenue. And then as we come up here, of course, the freeway is right there. Right, and so here's Eureka, curving around from first to second. Yeah. So people think that somehow Redlands is this frozen in time capsule historical place. And we do nothing but change constantly. Things are changing in town, which is pretty interesting.
One thing I noticed, I'm not native here, but moved here. So many streets start and then stop and then start again. More than in other towns. Or am I wrong?
I don't know. I've never done a survey of other towns to see how many streets stop and start and stop and start and stop again. But maybe that'd be an interesting thing. Right. So the reason that mostly that happens is because, you know, we have our really funky street grid. And when those two different grids meet, you know, those were different streets. And over time, I'm sure engineers thought it was a brilliant thing for ease of traffic and all of that, to just make it a more seamless transition. So that's why you have Orange Street becomes Cajon Street, becomes Garden Street. For a while became a part of Franklin, then eventually becomes Mariposa, East Mariposa. But those all were intersections before. You actually went from one street onto another. Now it's just all been re-engineered so that I can put my car in neutral at the top of the hill and get all the way down to Highland Avenue without ever stopping, which is great. Susan?
Okay, one thing, if you start looking at streets, avenues tend to go east and west. And not everywhere, but the old streets, north and south were streets.
Right.
When we talk about Oriental Avenue, you think of an avenue as a street, a road that goes from way here to way over there. And yet everything, not everything, but the early streets, I was just looking, not too long ago, and look at all your north-south streets, their streets and avenues are east and west.
Yep. Pretty much.
Except for the new stuff that curls around and they got roads and ways and whatnot.
Yeah, we're like the opposite of Manhattan.
Yes.
Just to confuse people, the streets there go east and west and the avenues go north and south. Okay, 229 Central, this is also lodgings. A lot of places for rent. And here, this is that same block. And actually here, if you look at this, where's my, if you look at that fence right in front, then that's this fence here. Okay, so now we're still looking west. This is still Central, or today's Redlands Boulevard. There was a fertilizer warehouse building here, and that's 2nd Street crossing down there, right? 1880s, 1890s, yeah. This is 225. It is vacant according to the directory, but hard to tell, right? Looks like somebody's taking care of something. There's fewer weeds on this lot than in some of the other houses we've seen. And this is the edge then of the residential district that's on Central Avenue. So from here, coming east, because remember, we're going from west to east. I hope I mentioned that. You might be really confused if I didn't. Did anybody here know Maury Clapp? A couple of you knew Maury Clapp. Here's Clapp's Tire Shop. He was later on the city council, I think. Was he ever mayor? I don't remember. Yeah. So I guess if you needed a tire, you could come right down here. And then just a little bit further down, you could get your car repainted at Killian's automobile paint shop. I think this is great that Bert Hatfield had a little bit of competition because they also have a Buick specialist here. So here we are at 3rd. We got a little bit further down. So if you see there in the distance, there's that auto painting place. Central Avenue is along the right. And here's that open channel section of the storm drain that was created in the 1890s for the Sankey. It depends who you ask. Oh, yeah.
We have a ton of trees now, which I love, but a lot of the photos you're showing us, there's trees.
There's a lot of foliage for sure. Mhm. So imagine now we're looking west, just turn around. And if you were now looking east, this is what you saw. They built the buildings just right over the channel where they needed to. And if you were to look at this building from its front, which is on the left side, you would realize that it is the Osborne Iron Works. So I'm sure many of you remember Ben Osborne. Ben was a great guy, and this was his grandfather's outfit originally when it was built. They sold the tourist automobile at one time. If you walk around town, look at the manhole covers, because some of them say Osborne Iron Works on them. It's pretty cool. Okay, well, as part of that project, then they had to demo some of these things, and I just is sequencing these together so that you can see them. This is looking that same view, except they've demolished the left half, the north half of that building. So this is Central Avenue here, Redlands Boulevard. Here's the Vendome Hotel. This is the Southern Pacific Station right there. And just for a little side-by-side comparison, same channel, same ditch, less building. All right, now we'll go down a little bit further to the intersection at 4th Street. You see the Anderson Flumegate Company. Brilliant idea used throughout the citrus industry was the flume gate. So if you look at the standpipes as they come out of the ground, those concrete things, the way that they regulated how much water came out, so to flood the furrow, is just these little metal pieces that slide up and down. And those are all made by the Anderson Flumegate Company, which is pretty good for such a little contraption. Actually, if you go to City Hall, there is a fountain that is created from one of those pipes, and they run water out that's regulated by the Anderson flume gates. So you can check out and see one sort of in operation. It recycles the water, of course. Right. It's right outside the Human Resources office, between the building that houses the council chambers and Human Resources. Okay. Across the street then, and you can see in the background the very tall sign for La Posada. And then Richie's Garage. It's an important place that was it Eddie Meyer, who was the racer who did a lot of his car stuff here. Going a little bit further to the east then, and we've got a couple of cafes. I like Rock's Hava Java Cafe. There's a smoke shop over there where you can get your cigars and cigarette papers and such. And then yet another building that has rooms for rent. A lot of vacancy in this town for that kind of thing. So now we're just the same building, and this is what it looks like fronting Orange Street. So there you can see La Posada. So that's State Street fronting over there. Remember, they're taking, I don't think I mentioned this, 42 feet of the lots that front onto Central Avenue in order to build this highway. So just imagine from here, 42 feet this way. So one of these two buildings, it's either this one, I think it's this one, is what became Curry's Ice Cream. If you remember that stuff. But this all went bye-bye. And yes.
Just wanted to ask, all these housing units, was that seasonal workers who were coming into, for citrus to?
It may be, but I'm gonna guess that the ones that are actually working in the fields are not the ones renting these rooms. It's just a guess. Yeah. You can see the Pacific Electric streetcar tracks are running down the center of Orange Street here. Right, so you can take the trolley. The wire is up here. See? That's one of the funny things about some of these photos too, is that the way that the lens manipulates the view, and sometimes it makes it very confusing. Here's across the street. So this is now the east side of Orange Street at Central. This is eventually almost where the shoe repair shop would end up. It's just the one little remnant of structure, which was not actually created from this building. It's created from the building next to it on the other side. That's where that was.
What's the building off to your left?
The tall one? That was most recently referred to as the Chandler Building. The Chandler Furniture Company was there for a long time. You're right, it's currently the location of Ed Hales Park. Yeah, it was torn down in 73, I think. Yeah. But it started out life as the post office and a lodge hall when it was finished in 1903. Okay, for a little bit further down. So this would be like, this is the little alley that runs, the backside of the shoe repair shop and the stuff that fronts on Orange Street. So there's still shoe repairing there, which is kind of interesting. So also you could buy your Coca-Cola, and look, more rooms for rent. More rooms. For a little bit further now to the east, this is where Parliament Chocolate is, but 40 feet back. There was, White Owl Eats for a long time. Anyway, and it's a barber shop. Right? Haircuts, 25 cents. 2 bits. Okay. Yep. So that what is now but 40 feet further south starts, right about there. So here it's another shot as we're moving a little bit closer to 5th Street. You can still find a blacksmith in the 1930s. And here's the corner. This is the corner of 5th and Redlands Boulevard. So remember, 42 feet from here back, and then that's where the new buildings come in. Of course, the Tartan building wasn't built until the mid-1970s. I think it's 1974 that they moved into that building. There was a gas station on that corner for a long time before that. But yep, that's it. Yeah, it'd be over there somewhere. Although I don't think that building was built yet, but close. Here's across the street. So this is now parking lot land. And you can see this building up here where it says Home Furniture Company. That's that one you can see the tower of in the other photo that we often refer to as the Chandler Building. Yeah, that's Eddie Hales Park. That's where that building was. But here, tractor repair, automobile and tractor repair. Oops. Sorry, I went the wrong direction. Here we have Curtis Edwards Tractors and Implements. You could till your backyard. This is when I was waiting for Franz's reaction. I assume this is you? No relation. What are the odds of that? I was all excited. I was like, oh, I hope this is the regular Eddie's. But no, huh? That's too bad. It's even the right industry. What you can't tell in this picture, but the Zanja channel is open right here. Yeah, and actually I can show you get back to our little map here. So now we are down here, right there. So that's where it was. And then that little opening there. Okay.
That building looks like a car bunker.
You got to get big rigs in and out of there if you're horses and such. So this building's on the corner then at 6th. And this is really interesting to me because I don't know of any other buildings in town that were built with stone block like that. It's very, very neat. Of course, this is also a parking lot today. Down here to State Street, down there. But really cool construction. So now we're going to be on this corner. So imagine you're going to be standing right here and you're going to be looking to your right, to the east. And this is the view you see. So this is 6th Street here. This is Redlands Foothill and Gold Banner, which is now Yamaha, Honda motorcycles. And then this is buildings for their wood box making stuff. And then just past that, where those trees are, is Hatfield Buick, but not yet. But just to kind of orient you to where you are. So we'll go down another block. Here's 7th Street. So this is where, I mean, it was Edison lot, right? Edison yard and those buildings. But this is 7th. Of course, remember the boulevard comes down here now, and today it keeps curving after that. But you had this big lumber property on the corner, Hammond Lumber. There's still a house this close to downtown, at least on that street. Here's another shot that shows the lumber company. What's really crazy about this, let's go back to the map. So there's that house, oops, sorry. Here's the lumber company. And what's really crazy is here's the Zanja, the Sankey for Redlands people.
Yes.
Comes in like this. And then we're here where it says cement storm ditch. I think this is the Oriental Arroyo storm ditch that comes down. It sort of parallels today's Redlands Boulevard on the west side of it. And the two meet underneath this woodyard, which was a little crazy for me when I was trying to figure out some of the locations for these pictures, because if we'll go back now to, this is that woodyard. And then here we have it. This is the same location. There's that house there, but now this is all exposed. Well, remember in this photo, oops, one more. There's a building on top of it. But now the building's gone and the two channels where they meet has come together. Here's a little bit further east. You can see, so this is the Sankey coming in on this side, where it's about to meet up with the Oriental Arroyo storm drain. There's Gold Banner, the Yamaha. There's the Shell Station. No, Shell Station's on this one. This is 76, right, today, where Redlands Foothill is, just to get your orientation. And then we'll get a little further back yet. And now you can see the Hatfield Body Shop and repairs section of the facility. The same buildings there. It's just all painted white and all the windows are painted too. And then here you can see this is the Oriental Arroyo storm channel coming in, and that's the Sankey storm channel coming over there. Pretty crazy. Yes. That was done in the 1890s. It was probably a lot of Chinese labor, actually, among others. Okay, so here we are. This is also looking further east on Central. This is the lumber yard on the right. This is where the Sankey is coming across, basically. And you can see how close, citrus and such is still going on there. Yeah, and this is the section of Central Avenue that still kind of exists over toward the high school, right? If you keep going that direction. Just another view. And then the last one of the before pictures. This is actually that Oriental Arroyo storm ditch as it's coming down, and you can see the lumberyard way down there. So pretty interesting. So the first thing that they had to do when figuring out this was, what are they going to do with the Sankey? Because they're going to build this new highway. And the brilliant plan that I think George Hinckley and the state engineers came up with was they're going to build a new channel through the middle of downtown that would remove it from its current location and put it in the middle of new highway, underground, but under the street. And so the next series of photos, I'm going to show you that actually under construction. And what they did was put it basically adjacent to the sidewalk. So it was only on the south half of the street then, but then when the buildings were demoed and the new highway went in, it would be in the middle of the road. Okay. So here we are back. We're going to start from the west and work our way east. So, so here we are. This is, yeah, there's that other, the red egg that shall go nameless. Evidently, he was down here at that point in time. For those of you who are old enough to remember, I'm sure none of you would ever have gone in there, but this was the location of Father's also. There. A bar called Father's Also?
I missed that rooster.
Yeah,
Did you know where that rooster
I
went?
believe it's in Mentone. Yeah, those fiberglass roosters, they're around. There's one you can see off Highway 101 in Ventura, Oxnard.
As a little kid, I missed that rooster.
Well, I'm sure the older men missed more than that. All right, so this is before construction, and then you can see this massive concrete, that's the channel. So this is actually underneath the mall now, because it runs down the middle of the street from roughly 7th Street until it gets about to 4th, and then it turns south to meet up with the rest of the channel where it was already existing. So I assume that that's still under the mall, which is going to be a really interesting thing for the new developers to deal with. I hope they know it's there. Should be surprised. So this is that same section. The buildings that came up to the street have already been demolished and a new building created back at what the new width of the street will be. But this is before they actually start the highway construction, because they had to demo those buildings in order to build that section of this channel. So what's also really great about this section of the photos is we actually get to see the people doing the work, which is, again, something we don't often get to see, is the ones who actually worked the construction of this. So this is central here. This is Orange Street. This is the northeast corner well, actually the northeast corner is here. The Baker House had just been demolished not that long before this, but it was on this corner, and that's where the former Chamber of Commerce building is now there, right? So Orange Street, that's to the north. What a pit. And of course, when they're building this, they have to go around water mains, they have to go around sewer. It had to be an interesting challenge.
Nate, this
Yep.
is 1934.
Yeah, 1934, 35 is this whole section.
Perfect timing for jobs for the Great Recession.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure that the California Department of Highways was using federal funds and such to help projects like these. I think this is my favorite photo in the whole collection. This is like pre-OSHA. Pre-OSHA, right? So here we are on Orange Street. These buildings are still there, right? So the Royal Falconer is here, and well, what used to be the Dance Horizons is there, and this was what, an antique shop and some other things for a while. And interestingly, yeah, Joe Thaman's pool hall was there, or cigar shop and such. This is where it was El Jewelers, same building. It just looks very, very different. And of course, the Redlands City Hall that was built as the YMCA at the far end of the street, and the Presbyterian Church. So it feels like a totally different downtown, doesn't it? I mean, completely different from today, but dangerous but passable. I'm not sure I would have wanted to be on like a 30-ton trolley car going over that pit on the tracks, but I guess there weren't any problems. At least I didn't come across any photos of any. Here we are looking the other direction. So this is north. You can see the Finney block there where Greensleeves is. Yeah. Vendome Hotel. The Santa Fe Depot is a little further down. You can see, right? And here's they must have done like one side in order to keep the road open, and then finished that and then did the other side and opened the road on that side, something like that. Because they kept traffic open, and they obviously kept they weren't clearly not allowing a streetcar through at this particular moment with the road closed sign, but. And check out that channel. So here's what I mean. What you can see is they've come up to the sidewalk on this side to build the channel. There's the street the section that isn't going to get, moved back. And then when all these buildings go, this will be the middle of the street. This is great, bypassing water during construction. And I'm assuming that they're talking about a water main that they're having to go around. But again, photos of the people actually doing the work, which is really remarkable. You can tell it was a depression. Nobody else had anything better to do but stand around and watch the construction of a ditch. Yeah, so this is looking west now, back toward 4th Street. And just, I've never been in these, but I think you must have been able to drive a car in it. They're huge. It's absolutely enormous.
You can stand.
Yeah, so here's that section. This is the block just west of Orange Street, and you can see all of the rebar that's going in. I guess as close as we are to the San Andreas fault, they felt more is better on that score, right? Here, I love the Ghirardelli chocolate ad, right? Absolutely. Drink ground chocolate. And actually get the concrete as it's getting poured. Pretty cool. Oh yeah, so that's Redlands Foothill, right up there, coming up to 6th Street. And here it is, that section. I'm sure they must have done the intersections first in order to reopen traffic. So yeah, so there's Foothill, now the 76 station. This is that same intersection, but actually looking north on 6th. So think of it like this: Shell Station, 76, right there, and that's on your way to get onto the freeway to go east. Yeah. A little bit further down, more of the channel, these great billboards. Wrigley's Spearmint Gum, top quality. And then now you guys recognize there's Gold Banner and Redlands Foothill, and then looking toward the west. And then the finished channel as it's coming up to where it would meet with the 2 different storm drains coming together. And then where they've cut through on the existing one. Massive equipment, that's still the lumber yard, and this is now those 2 different channels coming together. And looking back. And now some of the finished-ish photos. So here, this is that brand new section of street where it leaves Colton Avenue and then curves to the south to meet up with Central Avenue. Those are the smudge tanks that were here not that long ago, but 10 years, 15 years ago. Yep. So New York Street's right in here somewhere. And there's the trestle right there. So we're coming up, looking to approach the intersection at Texas. Here's the intersection at Texas I know there are Gill descendants here. There's Gill Electric Company right up there. And, as soon as the highway's finished, suddenly you have all of these new businesses that are oriented toward the automobile. So there's Union Oil right here. That's, of course, what it's like AM, PM or something like that. There's a little mini mart and the gas station there. That's right at Texas and State and Redlands Boulevard. So it was a gas station then. You could go buy your Airstream or whatever, because, that whole vacation thing is kind of this new fun, take your trailer around the world thing. And then this is where I wish the photographer was not looking at the street, but more because of what interests me. This is a wigwag crossing signal. That's the post for one, and it would be like right here. So close. So close. And it's Southern Pacific tracks that it's crossing right there. Now, unfortunately, the photos in this group totally skip all of downtown until we get to the far side. So this should look vaguely familiar to you all, because of course the church is still there. This is the intersection of the new section of Beacon / Redlands Boulevard / Highway 99, all that. And this is State Street. So Ken's Market here is the site today of, hey. Okay, here is East State, where Redlands Boulevard today crosses, looking at Redlands Junior High School, which is now the North Campus, of course. Now turn around, we're looking west on State. No Winchell's Donuts, no fire station yet. Here's Ken's Market right there. And the church would be over here. And then of course, that's the boulevard coming across. Now up a little bit further, this is actually the intersection at Citrus Avenue. So this is Citrus that crosses here. There's the church, and as the road curves around, you can see more gas stations have popped up. Because if you get like 7 miles to the gallon, you probably need to refuel pretty frequently. Again, looking at that intersection, but I liked this picture because you get a better sense of how much automobile-oriented stuff there was on this side of the street as well. Plus the big billboards, kind of interesting. Richfield Oil, there's another one further down. It's before the Travel Lodge. Here's Citrus Avenue looking across. There's the Y. Okay, so that's the YMCA. And see, they're still calling it Beacon Street, this whole section of it. There's Olive and Citrus, the restaurant today. Yep. Pretty cool. Here we are looking across Citrus on Beacon. So this is looking to the south. Here's Citrus here. This corner, wait, I turned around. I think that's right. The Smiley service station is, there's a gas station on that corner now. It's like Arco or something or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. That's, yep.
My dad was a truck driver before the freeway was built, and he said there was a signal at some point in front of the fire station. And he said if you had to stop for the signal, you lost your momentum.
Oh, I believe
So
it.
they would run the signal so they could get up the grade.
Better hope the fire engine wasn't coming out. That'd be messy. All right, Kevin, are you ready? So this is Clark Street. Yeah, so this little section, several of these houses are still there, right? Right, and here's Beacon Street or Redlands Boulevard.
So the first two are where Starbucks is now.
Okay, and then,
Which was La Rosita's and it's now Starbucks La Rosita.
right, so is this your place here? Yep. Yeah, so this is one of those photos that really confused me for a while, that I was trying to figure out what it is, because I knew that this was the highway, right? And I knew that this is Church Street and Clark's right down there, but I couldn't understand what this was about, because the street goes through there. And of course, that's when I did enough research to realize that, so here's an aerial view. Here's the highway as it comes through, right? Here's that intersection where they had to do that cut across after they closed that section of Roosevelt Road through the high school. So that's why you can stand here and take a picture that looks this direction and have, dirt in the front of you. Yeah, so I was all confused. Here's a closer view again. So this is all high school now. And of course, they finally figured out why do this when you can do, if I can make it work, when you can do that. So of course, today's Redlands Boulevard just comes straight down and then meets up again with where it was at the beginning of Reservoir Canyon. So here's well, Roosevelt Road is still there, but it's houses, and that section that curved around is now part of the high school campus. Yeah. So just to confuse you, this is that same intersection from another angle. This is Fern Avenue crossing here. Here's the highway, and then it curves around. And then on the other side of this service station is Church Street coming up. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Here, maybe this is a good, I'll show you. We'll move to the 1938. Yeah. So Here's that new section of Beacon Street coming down. There's the high school. And this is that intersection. Yeah. Confusing, right?
And now they have that weird little triangle at church.
Yeah.
And Boulevard and Fern.
Yep. So very confusing to me at first, but finally figured it out. Okay. And then the view from Church Street. Looking at it. Is that a school bus, you suppose? Kind of cool. Yeah, there's a little triangular piece of land there that ended up because of the funkiness. And now Fern Avenue, and there's the high school. There's the old administration building there, right there. Fern Avenue still went through beyond. Of course, now there's parking and the gym and all that stuff. Clock Auditorium's over there. Pretty groovy. And now this is the same intersection, but because remember, we have to look down every single street. There's 5 different sections that come together. Here we are. This is looking west on Fern Avenue. Looks a little different today, right? Yeah, yep. Formerly known as Altadena. And here's Roosevelt Road, which of course now is all houses. And as we move further to the southeast, here's the section of Highway 99 as it went by the city reservoir. This is the section of road you drive today. That road's still there. Ford Parks, this stuff up here. And that same section of road, and the houses up on Summit at the top up there. And then for the final exciting bit, this is not from that collection, but it helps show, this is actually a segment of a film that was created by the Contemporary Club in 1941 because they were documenting the creation of Jenny Davis Park. And remember, part of the impetus of Jenny Davis Park is because how can you have the first thing that people see coming into Redlands be the city dump? So the beautification committee of the Contemporary Club was instrumental in, I mean, they're the ones who created what became Jenny Davis Park. So that's what this was created for. So here we are, we're coming into town. And I think we're coming up to Tennessee Street about now. More gasoline. Big billboard. Yeah. In Mount San Jacinto. Chesterfield cigarettes, they helped put my grandfather in his grave. Coming up soon to New York Street. There's the Redlands neon sign right there. Sign's still there. Here's the park, Jenny Davis Park, making the curve around. There's a wigwag signal at Texas Street. Yay! Finally, right? How about the La Posada billboard?
Wow. That building's still there, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Edwards Paint is about there.
Oh, look at that.
Redlands Paint's a little further down,
Okay.
but yeah. So here we. Unfortunately, this is as far as we get into downtown, pretty much. I wish that they kept the film going. No, I just put this in because I wanted to see the train crossing signals. Right. So this is the intersection at Texas. Yeah. This is a WP. This is actually a WPA project to create more storm drains down there, but this is just the other side of just this side of Texas.
And that's still there, right?
I'm sure it is.
That's where the waterfall is.
Yeah.
And the
And the trestle was almost, you could see. Yeah. There's my little train signal again. Cool. So with that, thank you guys very much. It was a privilege to show this with you all.
Any final questions for Nathan? Oh, yeah, quite a few.
Oh, Nella.
Curious whether they thought in those times about 100-year flood and whether they think it's gonna take care of it now.
No.
I'm gonna defer to the engineer. Yeah,
One of the biggest problems where you show those two channels coming together, that's where the flash point is.
yeah,
That's where the two waters coming together, a lot of energy to dissipate there because it's very steep. Water's moving rather quickly at high flows and it gets all over Hatfield Bluff.
yeah.
That's why we are supposed to be worried now.
No, I'm not worried because I think, well, I'm getting preaching here a little bit. But the good thing about what ESRI has done is buy up all of the west facing slope of the Crafton Hills that will remain in water absorbing things. And a lot of the flood work that's assumed is that that's going to be paved and have a lot more runoff. So I think we're looking at less water downtown than if you did a different hydraulic study.
Cool. Next question.
Why was Oriental Arroyo called Oriental Arroyo? Because it's nowhere near Oriental Avenue.
No, and it predates Oriental Avenue by 15 years too. Yeah, because I believe there was a camp of Chinese who were living there up by what, Palm Avenue roughly?
They were on East Highland
East
and
Time.
Redland Street,
Okay.
and that's where the Oriental Arroyo began. And they camped there because there was enough excess water coming out of the Bethel Reservoir, which today we call the Fifth Avenue Pool. And it was coming down, and they had water there, but it was a work camp and had tents and just, you know, structures that were just good enough to keep you out of the sun in the afternoons. And they occupied that for just, you know, a couple months at a time. But we often think that, you know, that the Chinese are going to stay on Oriental Street down in that part of town, but there are work camps all over, wherever there's a supply of water, or even a cistern that has steady flow, like the Crafton Canal or the Bear Valley Canal, any of those open ditches, and you're nearby to shade trees and a place to stay, you just stay.
Okay. And that work camp was in the teens?
Oh, no, 1880s.
1880s.
Oh, so decades before.
The Oriental Arroyo was built in 1891 by William Glass, who was the contractor. Brought a lot of rock in from Mentone, beautified Mentone by bringing in rock. to the
Yes,
road.
amen.
And also brought in rock from the Santa Ana Wash on North Church Street.
Okay.
Emily?
Marla's dad was Lou Perkins. He was an engineer. Yeah.
But he found those pictures, they were remodeling upstairs in the city hall. And he said they were gonna throw them away.
Sounds about right.
And, yeah, I mean, and he said, no, you're not, we're gonna keep them. And when he passed away, I ended up.
Well, we're so glad you saved them.
An engineer.
Right, right. Glad we shared them.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
I'm confused because okay, I was taught north, south was an odd number and even numbers ran east, west, but how is 99 going across and then my brand 99 was going north? So how did that become 99? How did?
Well, I think it trends north-south overall, although the crazy one is 91, right? That's,
Familiar with it, I didn't go with the 99 that we're familiar with today. So how did-
right, that's a different number. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the rationale behind that particular numbering is, but it was a state highway at that period of time. Officially 1901, 1901 is when the street was created. Officially, there was a little alleyway there that I'm sure was referred to in a number of different ways before that, but it was officially named by the city council. And maybe it was 1900, like May 1900.
There was another,
That sign, my eyes just aren't quite good enough. Redlands, the family place, the friendly. place.
friendly.
Friendly place.
Friendly place.
This is not from the 1930s, but I had to have something that looked nice at the ends, right? But this is that neon sign that was in the film and that is still there at Jenny Davis Park today. And it got a restoration like 2 years ago with newfangled LED neon. And it looked awesome. And then something happened and last time I drove by, it wasn't on. But hopefully that gets fixed in because it looked really cool. I love neon, so even though it's not real neon, it still looked really good.
That's all along every place. There's blocks of some kind of.
Split stone. Yeah, that's one of our great features in town, unless you drive your car too close to it and then you tear up your rims or tire. But yeah, it's split stone. Beginning in the late 1880s, early 1890s, and continued on through the 1930s. There was a lot of stonework that was WPA projects actually to put in curbs and gutters, and the curbs were stone. Yeah, even that late. Anybody else? Well, cool. Thank you guys very much.
We got a couple more announcements. The Redlands, Museum of Redlands is going to hold a rummage sale, another rummage sale coming up. I hope all of you have been decluttering like I have and took 2 pickup loads to it. But the sale dates will be November 11th, 12th and 13th, 19th and 20th. So that's 2 weekends. If you want preview tickets, the first night, $25. Early bird tickets, $10. And Nelda is here, and if you have any other questions but a lot of good stuff. It's going to be at the old Grigsby building on Stewart.
You all know where the Grigsby building is, because everybody knew last year it was at the big facts before we began the construction of the museum. How many here actually know where the Grigsby is? Okay.
Stewart and
We go out from Orange, just past Santa Fe, on Stewart, is the next to the traffic light there.
Next to Red Rooster.
Next to the Red Rooster in there. Yes, you need to go and see that building as holding all of this marvelous things that are there. Thank you all for donating.
Are they still accepting donations?
No, it really is too full.
a lot of stuff.
Next year.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We've got refreshments in the back and books and things. And we'll see you next month for our Christmas party on the 8th and the program on January 24th.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
That's
It
great.
was so fun.
Because I made it totally, you kept calling me in Central Avenue and then Boulevard. I understood this at one point